When the Canucks miss the playoffs again.
When Jim Benning trades away all our picks.
When Goldobin is scratched for the third game in a row. C4 is there. With Sedin-like vision, Horvat's work ethic, and Petey's electric personality. Here comes the C4 Canucks Hockey Podcast with Chris, Matt, Anna, and Adam.
Powered by Overtime Media.
C4 Podcast on CanucksHockeyVlog.com. Matt Lee with you in the hot box with my fellow co-host, Anna Forsyth. You can find her at aforsyth03. Missing in action, Chris Golden at Lightforce, attending some family business in the old country, as Anna calls it.
Chris calls it that, but yeah.
Is it called the UK in this case?
Yeah.
I don't know. I was told there'd be no geography.
It, like, even post-Brexit, it's still called the UK.
Britain left, right?
Yeah.
Is that official now?
Yeah. January 31st.
I don't keep up on much of the European affairs.
Yeah, unfortunately, it is official. Brexited. It happened, past tense.
We are pleased to report Chris is not sick or anything like that, though. He has had some prior absences.
Matt's hypochondria.
That are not linked to the coronavirus. Let's just get that out of the air.
Yeah, and going to the UK, also not a coronavirus area, so fine.
I'm still a little skittish that he's getting on an international plane, though.
What, planes being incubators?
I mean, airports in general are they're very dirty.
Yeah, they are. And
they're not my favorite place to go.
Did you know that when you were allowed to smoke on planes, the air was actually cleaner?
Ugh.
Because you had to recycle the air, which you don't have to now, and clean it.
I'll tell you right now, I would not last on a plane that allows smoking.
But the thing was, yeah.
My childlike lungs would not allow it.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't like it, I'm sure, but technically, it was cleaner.
Yeah. Getting back to matters at hand, Anna. It's our first podcast since the Family Day long weekend. We debated the possibility of having an emergency podcast after the Tyler Toffoli trade this time last Monday. Didn't come to fruition, of course. So we will catch up on our remnant thoughts on the Tyler Toffoli acquisition, which is now a week old. Also, of course, talking about the NHL Trade Deadline. The trades that happened, the trades that didn't happen. Jacob Markstrom's on the shelf. Thatcher Demko is getting the starts from now on. So much happening over the last 24 hours, Anna. And there's a lot to unpack.
Yeah. That was accompanied, ladies and gentlemen, by very dramatic hand gestures. So, Matt is hyped.
And we haven't even gotten to the part of the podcast where we bask in the glory of our Game 22 win over the Boston Bruins.
That was glorious.
I don't know which game it is in the Stanley Cup final.
No, I think I saw it was Game 22
Was it? It is 22, right? Fitting. 22. The record is 33-22. We could do that forever. Before we talk about all that stuff, Anna, because we do have a lot to get to, you want to plug the tweet up, which is happening this Saturday, February 29th.
Well done, Matt. Got the date right. Woo!
Someone's been reading.
Saturday, February 29th, upcoming. It's taking place at Jager's downtown, which is on Pender Street. It's for the Canucks Maple Leafs game, so we'll be starting at 4. We have the back room reserved, so we'll be hanging out, watching some hockey, talking about the Canucks, and just like the good old days when it was just the people of Canucks Twitter meeting up and, just having casual chats about hockey. So, I'm really looking forward to it.
And I know there's a few people on Discord who have already mentioned that they just so happen to be in town in Vancouver for that weekend. So, a great opportunity for us to meet some of the people who follow us in the Discord channel here on the C4 podcast. Looking forward to meeting some of you guys and gals who are going to be at the Suite Up. I have a question for you. The game is against the Leafs. Who will be the emergency backup for that one?
I know. I saw that even in Columbus, the Columbus game today, the emergency backup was at least put on notice. That will be interesting. I would be very happy if it's David Ayres, but I'm not even sure he'll be back from his celebrity tour.
It is the Ayres worldwide tour, it seems. Did you see the media rounds that guy is making throughout the last few days?
Yeah, like a lot. But it couldn't have
he's like on
happened to a nicer guy.
ESPN these days. He's on Canada's TSN network, Sportsnet. He's literally globetrotting. Like, I think the Hurricanes are having some sort of a special ceremony for him. Something about it's David Ayres Day or something in Carolina, in Raleigh, Carolina these days.
Yeah, I think the governor was trying to declare him an honorary North Carolinian.
There are so many things that happen. I mean, I could go in and be the emergency backup for one of the Carolina games coming up. I mean, I don't know when the Leafs are at home next, but I could go in there and stop Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner. I don't know, man. I saw David Ayres, and you know what? I'm not going to go off on a tangent here too much, but he is literally a beer league hockey goalie. He is some guy that they found, just happens to be in the arena, does the Zamboni on the side, but he is literally a guy. We talk about Jags all the time. He is the epitome of a Jag.
Oh, yeah, big time. I mean, he does, practice with the Leafs sometimes. So, like, he has faced NHL caliber shots in his career in practice, The game situation is something entirely different.
Like, I'm not saying my Muffins could beat David Ayres in a beer league hockey game, but the Leafs just lost to a beer league hockey goalie.
I know.
And it is not lost on me about just how gratifying it is that it just happened to be against the Toronto Maple Leafs on Hockey Night in Canada, no less.
It was a beautiful moment. Even made The Guardian in the UK the next morning. So
I've heard of that publication.
Yeah, respectable.
It's big in the UK.
Respectable publication, but yeah, I think it's a story that resonates, right? It's the kind of thing that happens in movies, not in real life.
Right. So, again, getting back to the original topic, tweet up. This coming Saturday, February 29th, 4 o'clock at Jaegers, the Vancouver Canucks taking on the Toronto Maple Leafs. We hope to see you all there. Where do we begin? What's the biggest topic of the day? I guess let's start with the news, broken by friend of the show, Patrick Johnson, that Jacob Markstrom sidelined for what the team is calling an indeterminate amount of time. Not an indefinite amount of time, but it does sound like Jacob Markstrom, who is on his way back to Vancouver, will get an MRI, a second opinion. We'll know more about his status later, but the early sort of suggestions are Jacob Markstrom could miss 3 to 4 weeks with what is being described as a knee injury.
Yeah, it's a bit concerning, obviously. I mean, to put an understatement on it. I know that was a scary time from PJ's first tweet at the deadline saying, there may be something to him missing practice today besides the maintenance day, which is what the Canucks put out there initially. Yeah, that was unnerving because, people were thinking, is that a trade? Obviously, that would be, like, out of nowhere, and I don't think the Canucks would do it. I can understand the arguments for it, but, I'm on the side of not trading him, and I don't think Jim, who's trying to save his job by getting into the playoffs, would do it.
Right. Well, we all knew deep down that there was probably zero chance it was a trade.
Yeah, we were pretty sure.
Our minds went there for like a half second.
Because you had to.
But realistically, like with the Toffoli trade, there was no way that they were going to unload Markstrom now.
Yeah, that would be a crazy move, but...
There was some speculation out there. There was that GIF floating around of Quinn Hughes and Kevin Fiala going into Jacob Markstrom from the Minnesota game.
Right.
Jim Benning clarifying in his press conference this afternoon that it was actually during the Boston game that this knee injury happened.
Which is, I mean, it does make you feel somewhat better because Canucks have had some bad history with playing injured players. So
I mean, I've gone back and watched highlights of the game, and I'm struggling to find a point where it looked like Markstrom
but with a knee injury, it could have been like a routine save, and he would still... I don't think you can necessarily see it.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of seeing it, I initially thought it was probably related something to the eye. I mean,
yeah, that was a scary moment too.
That going into the cat's eye for his mask, and I thought that was potentially a problem. But he came back and finished the game as well. I don't know. I mean, this is very tough, a very tough pill to swallow for the Vancouver Canucks, losing Jacob Markstrom for however long that this could be. Jacob Markstrom, we've talked at length over the last few weeks and months about how he has been undisputedly the team MVP this season. He's thrust himself into the conversation for at least the Vezina Trophy, or to at least get a Vezina vote or two. It is going to be difficult to replace Jacob Markstrom.
Yeah, I think Jacob Markstrom has been the guy covering all manner of sins on the Canucks blue line and bailing the Canucks out just any number of times. And he's such a perfectionist. He's so hard on himself when he does make the occasional error or just let a goal in that wasn't his fault. So to have that just completely out of action, I'm sure we're all a bit worried about him being ridden pretty hard into
English
the playoffs.
Is not your first language.
Anyway, and the strain that might put on his body, but to have him completely out of the equation is, as you said, tough pill to swallow. And that's not a big knock on Demko.
Okay, so we'll get to Thatcher Demko in a second. A real quick thought from you on how, if at all, this Markstrom injury affects the Canucks' desire to sign him to a new contract and what those negotiations look like in light of this injury.
Well, I think they had stalled anyway. They'd kind of put it off anyway, so I don't think it necessarily affects it. I don't think Canucks see him as an injury-prone player. I don't think this really kind of taps into that, and I guess it will depend how Canucks go through, his injury, whether that might play into arguments about his value for the team. But I don't think even if the Canucks do well, I don't think that negatively affects the arguments to his value because, Pacific's such a tight division. He's still, been the MVP through this time.
So let's turn the page over here to Thatcher Demko. And we've seen Thatcher Demko this season playing for Markstrom, albeit in a much more abbreviated stretch of games. Markstrom leaving the team earlier this year to attend his father's funeral back in Sweden. He came back. I believe it was like a 3 or 4 game stretch or something to that effect. I can't really look it up at the moment. So we have seen Demko in that starter's role for an abbreviated stretch, but we are looking at obviously a much more extended look for Demko, possibly in the realm of 3 to 4 weeks of being the starter. I think I saw some stretch about how if Markstrom misses 4 weeks, it would be about roughly 14 or 15 games that he'd be missing. There are only 21 games left in the season, so we're talking about Demko playing a lot of critical games down the stretch here. What do you think Thatcher Demko how do you think he will respond to being put into this situation, into what is undoubtedly, Anna, the most important part of this season?
Yeah, I mean, particularly with the playoff contending teams around them in the Pacific and how tight it is. But yeah, they've strengthened themselves at the deadline. And Canucks, apart from Toffoli last week, really haven't. Yeah, I have no doubt about Thatcher Demko's character. I'm sure attitude-wise, he'll respond really well to this and really take this opportunity in hand. But as to whether he's ready to go on this extended run of games, that's the tough thing. I think he's a really good backup and, the future of this team. I think we've said that over and over again, but...
You're not convinced?
I'm not convinced that the future is now. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. So I will say this. I think Thatcher Demko, on one hand, is being put into a very tough situation. Anytime you are being asked to take over in the starter's net for a critical stretch such as this, and on top of that, replacing a guy who has been the team's MVP, Vezina Trophy consideration, that is a very tall order for Thatcher Demko to do. Now, on the flip side of this, I tried to make it work here to get a quick interview with Cam Robinson before the show today, but I asked him what his thoughts are on Demko taking over for the starter's net. And his exact words were this: Thatcher Demko has a shot to change the very course of this franchise with Markstrom's upcoming free agency and the expansion draft. He says someone is leaving. And if Demko can even go league average with the way Canucks give up chances these days, that would be a great sign. And I happen to agree with Cam. Thatcher Demko has a huge opportunity at his feet here. He has the ability to show the Canucks right now that he is the guy that they want to keep going forward, the guy that they want to build around in this net. It's on the flip side, if you're looking at this from a glass half full perspective, there will never be a greater time than now for Thatcher Demko to demonstrate his worth to this team. We're going to find out in these next 3 to 4 weeks what Thatcher Demko can do. And from a team that's kind of playing with house money at this point, it's not the worst case scenario.
This is so weird, Matt, like looking for the positive angle, like bending over backwards to find the positive angle. I love it. Of course, Cam is very wise. We know this. And he's not wrong that it's a huge opportunity. For me, Thatcher Demko going league average down the stretch would be an achievement. Like, definitely. But I don't think that changes how important Markstrom is to this franchise. So I think it may depend on factors beyond Demko's performance, you know. Even if he plays really well, but the team in front of him let him down, or the Pacific around the Canucks just gets stronger, and we miss out on the playoffs, even if Thatcher Demko's done a stand-up job, it may not affect his future in the way that he's hoping. So I still think we're in for a tough decision, no matter how things go.
Right. So let me ask you this. I think we can both agree that Thatcher Demko is the clear number 2 on this team behind a healthy Jacob Markstrom.
Yeah.
And if the season ended today, you would be more than willing to enter into a new extension for Jacob Markstrom. We can talk about the contract and how that would look on another day, at another time. But you would definitely want to re-up Markstrom at this point if you had the chance.
Yeah. That's the simple answer. And there are so many caveats to it.
And the simple response is that by re-signing Jacob Markstrom, there's probably a good chance the Canucks would have to either trade or lose Thatcher Demko in the expansion draft.
Right. And yeah, as I said, there's so many caveats. But if he does a good job, he has a much better case. Like a trade, he has much better trade value.
He ups his trade value, or the Canucks can be faced with a tougher decision about who they want to build around.
It's true. Oh, big time. But like, say he does a good job, Markstrom comes back before the end of the season, and carries the Canucks through the playoffs. Like, I'm not saying carries the Canucks to the cup, but you know what I mean. Helps them win maybe 2 series. Like, then it's just like, I think you're still faced with that tough decision. But yeah, there's no doubt Demko has like the opportunity right now to make the discussions just like that much more interesting, because I think they're already torn and finding it quite difficult. It's just like, how close are the Canucks by the end of the season, end of the postseason? Right.
So Thatcher Demko, the Vancouver Canucks, have 21 games left in their season. We expect that Demko is probably playing, maybe 12 of the next 15 games. Louis Domingue probably sprinkling in there and some of the back-to-backs that the Canucks have coming up. If Thatcher Demko plays at a level of 500 or better, does that move the needle at all for you on how you look at Thatcher Demko, or is you just kind of status quo?
No, it does. And as I say, like him, but I don't think 500 gets it done, right?
Yeah. Well, realistically, the team needs to go at least 500 to make the playoffs.
At least. But I think with how tight it's being and the Pacific improving around the Canucks, I just think as I say, that like Demko could do a great job, but if we don't make the playoffs, like, then, you know, Jim Benning may be out of a job. If he's not, like, he's on desperation stations, and I think he would go with the safe option, which is re-upping Markstrom.
Right. The Canucks have a couple back-to-backs here in March, Anna. They've got one coming up this weekend. They've got the Toronto Maple Leafs on Saturday, and then they got Columbus on the Sunday after. And then they got that California road trip coming up in the mid-March stretch where they're taking on Anaheim on Saturday and the Kings on Sunday, I believe. I'm actually going to both games in California.
In California? That's awesome.
Yeah, real aside, obviously most people know I got engaged recently and I'm getting married in September. And for my stag, we're all going down to California to watch the Canucks and Kings and then the Canucks and Ducks.
Is the Dad Lee making the trip?
No, the Dad Lee is not coming with my friends and I on the trip.
I think that's a missed opportunity. He could be your in to hanging out with the team.
This is true. There's still time to plan that. Real quick on Louis Domingue, by the way, Cam, who obviously studies goaltenders a lot as well, suggesting that Domingue is an upgrade, but he's a number 3 in his opinion. He can fill in as a number 2 in a pinch. Realistically, Louis Domingue is playing maybe 4 or 5 games. It is a pure rental situation. I don't look at it differently that the Canucks are, trading for Louis Domingue over recalling Mikey DiPietro, for instance. This is a pure development thing, and Louis Domingue was basically free.
Right, yeah. I was going to basically ask that question is, do you think it solely speaks to wanting to keep developing DiPietro?
Yeah, I mean, the Canucks put DiPietro into a really tough spot last year when they made his debut as a 19-year-old against San Jose. I'm pretty sure he still has PTSD from that game, but
I still have PTSD from that game.
Yeah. So I feel like this is a pure, like, let's get a proven goaltender in return here for free. Like, Louis Domingue, a lot of people forget, he won 20 games for Tampa Bay last season.
Right, he's not, like, past it by any stretch.
Yeah, and I'm not saying, like, the Canucks and Tampa Bay last season are even in the same conversation, but 21 wins is 21 wins. And Louis Domingue showed that he can at least be a spot NHL goaltender when called upon.
Right. I think that's the thing. That's what we want him for, right? We don't want him to perform consistently. We just want him to perform when called upon in these back-to-back situations, as you said, or any other kind of issues that arise. But that's going to be Demko's test, right? It's just the consistent performance because he has shown that he can perform, but it's just on a consistent basis, and the defense will have to perform on a consistent basis in front of him.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about some of the trades that didn't happen, Anna. Troy Stecher had been in rumors for the last couple weeks. How do you feel about Troy Stecher staying in Vancouver?
I mean, I'm obviously very pleased for him. He's a Canucks fan. He grew up watching this team. He really wants to stay and help them win a cup. It also just doesn't seem like there was the right move out there. Doesn't seem like a team want to add a Troy Stecher at this moment.
Well, Benning said today that he did have teams inquire about Stecher, but he was never looking to actually move him.
Right.
So there were teams that were,
I don't know how much I believe
doing
that.
The proverbial kicking of tires, but
yeah, I'm sure like Benning was like definitely open to the conversations for sure. I do think that we've got to at some point address this sort of Tanev Stecher.
Do you really think it's one or the other?
I don't necessarily think it is one or the other, but I think there's a point, and it's not necessarily right now. I think we need to look again in the off season where we look at that blue line and what we have coming up in the blue line. Not that I think I'm on the Jason Bruff kind of train of it's not like we're ridiculously strong back there, but we definitely have some defensive prospects coming through. So I do think there will end up being a logjam that we have to address.
Yep.
But it's not necessarily as obvious as like Tanev or Stecher. But yeah, if Stecher stays even just to the end of the season and has a little playoff run with the Canucks, even if, winning a series or that, and that's it, like that would still be huge for him, I think.
He picked a great time, by the way, to have his first three-point night in his career.
I know, and since the last few games, he's really stepped up point-wise. I think that's the kind of game Travis wants to see from him, and just fear of the defensive mistakes. But yeah.
Here's where I stand on Troy Stecher. It's an irrational thing, but I always root for a guy like Troy Stecher.
Yeah, he's very easy to root for.
You mentioned it, like he grew up in Richmond. He grew up a Canucks fan. We saw the photos of him as a kid at Rogers Arena back then, wearing Canucks jerseys. And like, this is a guy who scratched and clawed his way to get here. He was an undrafted free agent, passed over in the draft a couple times, signed with the Canucks. Of all teams, there were a lot of teams that showed interest in Troy Stecher, but he signed with his hometown team because he wanted to play for the Canucks. That was his dream. And so it is tough from a fan's perspective and that attachment you have to a local product to see that Stetcher's name was getting bandied about in rumors a little bit. I totally get that at the end of the day, Stecher is maybe at best a fringe top 4 guy, but probably best suited as a bottom pairing guy, and that his trade value is probably never been quote unquote higher. But it is tough to say, let's deal Troy Stecher to get what we can from now. I get the business aspect, but from a fan, it's the same reason why we have an irrational hope for Jake Virtanen to succeed. So much was invested in him. And
I'm totally on board from the human angle. It must have been exhausting and kind of tricky couple of days for Stecher being asked constantly about trades, having apparently friends text him because they were caught off guard by fake accounts saying he was traded. Yeah. And from the fan perspective too, at the end of the day, hockey might be a business, but it's an entertainment business, and we as fans would love Troy Stecher to succeed. I think obviously the unspoken part of this is that Tyler Myers exists, and the Canucks are not just going to give up so easily on that contract.
Yeah.
We might prefer a Troy Stecher over a Tyler Myers, but
one contract is more immovable than the other, though.
Yeah.
Speaking of other hometown people, well, sort of hometown, from Kelowna, Tyson Barrie didn't come to the Vancouver Canucks. There was the rumors out there. I don't know if it would have been... I mean, let's put it this way. If it was simply a Stecher for Barrie deal, in spite of everything we just said about Troy Stecher, if it was Stecher for Tyson Barrie straight up, that's a deal that you almost cannot pass up.
Yeah.
That wasn't the case. According to Bob McKenzie, it was the Leafs asking for a first and a prospect. And I was like, nope, I'm out. I do not want to pay even more picks and prospect capital for a guy who is going to be an unrestricted free agent at this year. And we've heard all these rumors about how Barrie wants to become a Vancouver Canuck. Let's just get the guy for free if you really want him in the summer.
Right, yeah. I think, and we'll probably be talking about that again in the offseason. But yeah, that price is pretty steep considering the amount of prospects and picks Canucks have already given away.
Yeah, I was just no dice. And then the other ones, Wayne Simmons did not come to the Vancouver Canucks. He went to Buffalo of all places, by the by.
Yeah, we're still waiting to hear on the kind of upshot of that and why exactly.
There was so much wrong with this. Wayne Simmons traded for a fifth, we were talking about a second or a third for Wayne Simmons. Thank God it wasn't a fifth. And then we were talking about how Wayne Simmons waived his no trade or no movement clause so he could go to Buffalo. People actually waive clauses to go to Buffalo? Does he not know Buffalo?
Yeah, I know. It's a bit... I mean, New Jersey isn't exactly the...
New Jersey's not Las Vegas either. I get that.
And it's not the happiest place to be right now. On top of that, but I mean,
Buffalo? you're really, it's a low bar when you're willing to go to Buffalo.
Yeah, I did say today that was the strangest sentence I've heard in a while, was waiving your no trade clause for Buffalo.
Real aside, what do you think the worst cities are to play, in terms of lifestyle and fans and stuff like that? Buffalo has to be up there, right?
Yeah, maybe Ottawa's really boring.
Ottawa's pretty bad, too.
And it's a Canadian city, so the fans are going to be
I've been to Ottawa. It is not the best. No offense to anyone from Ottawa.
And the arena isn't even in Ottawa, which is boring itself.
Have you tried to get to that arena?
I have not, but I know it's
Okay, so I went to Ottawa in 2009 to visit my then ex-girlfriend and then girlfriend. And then we traveled by bus for like an hour from downtown Ottawa to get to Canada, Ontario, wherever the hell it is. It was like taking a bus from downtown Vancouver to Abbotsford.
Right.
Not the best.
And then, I don't know, like Edmonton,
Winnipeg has to be up
Connor McDavid.
Yeah, but even then, like, even Connor McDavid couldn't save me from wanting to go to Edmonton.
Yeah, like, it's so cold. You have to live underground
Winnipeg
for like
has to be up there too, though.
Oh, but yeah, the fans are great.
The fans are great. The minus 40 is not.
No, and being in the prairies is not.
Those have to be one of the worst. I think New Jersey's got to be up there too, though, to be honest.
But you're so close to New York.
Yeah, but it's New Jersey.
Like, Newark, you can get a 10-minute train to New York from Newark.
But it's New Jersey.
It is still New Jersey. But, I mean, even a load of the Philly players live
Detroit's kind of a glum place these days, too.
Yeah, but even that's better now. I mean, maybe
They're
not
all
the hockey
bad.
team, but, the town is recovering. But yeah, even the Philly players live in New Jersey, so that New Jersey mustn't be all bad.
Right. Speaking of which, actually, you know what? We'll save it for the next segment. We're going to take a break, come back. We'll talk about the Boston win, a recap. We'll talk about the Tyler Toffoli trade, a recap. And we'll talk about who is the Canucks 7 prospects that Jim Benning referenced last week when they traded for Tyler Toffoli. All that coming up next on the C4 podcast, CanucksHockeyBlog.com.
He liked to say the F word.
Oh, then get the here then. Okay, see ya.
Is going to have the F word on it.
I wish I could give you an explanation about it. I can't.
You, out of here.
You said the F word, Dad.
You called me the F word.
So we'll start with the Tyler Toffoli trade, actually. And we were just talking about cities that players really like to play for. Did you catch After Hours on Saturday?
I did not. I tend not to watch it anymore just because it seems to be Scotty Oak reading out.
I know. But I couldn't help it because I was just coming off the high of a 9-3 win, and Tyler Toffoli was one of the guests on After Hours. And I normally don't watch After Hours as well, but I just had to sort of kind of listen to and dissect Tyler Toffoli's thoughts on his reaction to coming to Vancouver. And he talked about how when the Kings traveled to Vancouver, like Vancouver was always one of the best cities that he liked to travel to. His wife has walked across the seawall a few times since they've arrived as well, that they've just fallen in love with the city. I really wonder if the city itself is a selling point in Tyler Toffoli potentially deciding to re-sign with the Vancouver Canucks.
Yeah, I think so. I think the Vancouver lifestyle definitely appeals to the players themselves and their families. I know I did notice on the day he was traded, his wife tweeted a cute picture of Tanner Pearson and Tyler Toffoli together, but I did a little sneaky stalk of her Twitter profile. She works for the Dodgers, so that's not a great, that's quite a big tie, but, hopefully there's maybe
we
she
have the
wants
Vancouver Canadiens.
Yeah, I was like, does she want to work for the Vancouver Canadiens? We can find her a job.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think big time. Everyone always talks about Vancouver being a fun place to be.
Yeah, and there are obviously other factors attached to this as well. Tyler Toffoli could be playing for the Canucks, which is clearly an up-and-coming team. You've mentioned the lifestyle as well. He's got Tanner Pearson here, who he already has a established friendship with. There are a lot of reasons why the Vancouver Canucks could be a strong suitor to retain the services of Tyler Toffoli. What did you think of the asking price? Just to recap, Tyler Madden, Timmy Schaller, and a second-round pick this season in exchange for Tyler Toffoli.
I didn't love it, but obviously Tyler Madden's an unproven quantity, but he's been getting a lot of good reviews for his play. Tim Schaller sorry, Tim, but could take or leave. Like, he was, jag. Very big jag. And don't love Jim giving away more picks, but I know what he's doing, and it was a smart move from that standpoint.
Yeah, I agree. I talked to Cam Robinson about this one as well, and I asked him, what are the Canucks potentially losing in Tyler Madden? And he mentioned that Madden has a very real second-line upside, whether it's out as a center or a wing. He mentioned that Madden's game is better suited for the middle of the ice, but his stature may limit that in the NHL. Obviously, the team felt that with three young, proven NHL centers in Pettersson, in Horvat, and Gaudette, that they could move on from Tyler Madden. I mean, you could say that maybe Tyler Madden could have started his career on the wing, sure. But then they have the guys that are the seven. Like, they've got Podkolzin, they've got Hoglander, they've got Cole Lind, all players that you can envision being on this team in the next 2 years. I mean, when you look at it from that perspective, yes, the Canucks could afford to lose a Tyler Madden. On the surface, I was still kind of upset that it was for a guy who is still ultimately and potentially a rental.
Yeah, that's my big concern. Obviously, if he plays as well as he started down the stretch, helps the Canucks make the playoffs, and then re-signs, then sure, like, we've got ourselves, the deal looks good.
I feel like it hinges on him re-signing.
Oh, yeah. Because if he doesn't, and even if the Canucks do make the playoffs, it's still expensive for a first-round exit or whatever, like the Canucks do. Hopefully, I really hope that isn't the case, but, unless the Canucks win the Cup, it's an expensive price for a rental.
Right. Speaking of the Canucks 7, we mentioned Niels Hoglander and Vasily Podkolzin. The other 7, I'm guessing Brogan Rafferty is kind of emerged into that equation, but he's probably not quite in that 7. But it'd be Hoglander, Podkolzin, Jet Wu, Jack Rathbone.
Yeah, I mean, all
DiPietro.
All very promising, right?
Yalevi and Lind, I think those would comprise the 7.
Yeah.
But I think Rafferty's knocking on the door.
Sorry.
I know. But those are clearly 7 guys that you can envision knocking on the door within the next 2 years.
Yeah, and Jack Rathbone, probably even more of an unknown quantity than Tyler Madden, but he's playing really well with Harvard. And considering the recent not Beanpot, that's Boston. Just kidding. But the recent college performances, he's having himself, a good season for sure.
Well, I mean, Cam said this himself, that he can see Jack Rathbone coming in and stealing a spot next season. That's how high he is on Jack Rathbone this year.
Yeah, I saw that tweet from Cam, and it gave me a lot of
spicy take there, Cam.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of praise going around in terms of honorable mentions for Aiden McDonough, who's also on Northeastern, playing with now former Canuck prospect Tyler Madden.
Yeah, I mean, Northeastern seems like a really good program, doesn't it?
Who are we drafting next from Northeastern? I want to know. We're picking in the 3rd. Who can we pick in the 3rd that's going to Northeastern that we can sort of sell as a guy that should have been taken in the 1st round?
Honestly, we've done well. Northeastern hockey is playing some... Yeah.
Northeastern is the bestern.
No, that was bad.
Yeah.
They don't use that, do they?
No, I don't know.
Okay, good. By the way, Matt, his career is in marketing.
Not quite in marketing. Whatever. Anyway, the Vancouver Canucks versus Boston. I think Wyatt Arndt said it the best. So the Canucks curb stomped the Boston Bruins. A Zamboni driver destroys the Toronto Maple Leafs on a hockey night in Canada. And then he said, it's like someone's been reading my dream journal.
It was quite the evening.
And the Olympic torch was being relit in Vancouver as well. It was like the dream Saturday for me. I had a pizza that night, and it was great.
Quick aside, you asked me about After Hours. There's a reason I wasn't watching it. I was just casually hanging out with Elias Pettersson. It's fine.
Excuse me?
Well, I was...
did this... Okay, so start from the top.
I was in his vicinity.
So you weren't actually hanging out with
No,
Pedersen.
but I was at the table
Once
next
again,
to him.
as an actress or someone who's like getting into the Hollywood kind of a thing, you have dramatically oversold this.
Yeah, I'm a writer. I wrote my own story. But this is the third bar I have like sat next to someone key to the Canucks organization, like literally table next to. During the summer, Travis Green. During like camp, it was Travis Green. A couple weeks ago, Alex Burrows.
Did you get a picture with Erica Branson?
Oh yeah, but that was in the sports bar in Rogers Arena, so that's less impressive.
So
And then
okay, so
Saturday
back
night,
up.
Pedersen.
Where did you see Pedersen?
the Diamond, because I'm classy, I was at a cocktail bar.
I don't know where that is.
Gastown.
Who was he with
Friends.
that you don't know?
No.
Could not recognize.
Could not recognize.
Not players.
Not players.
Interesting.
Somewhat glamorous.
How do we ingratiate ourselves as friends of Pedersen?
Yeah, good question. I don't know. Beanies seem to be a thing. Him and the male in the group were wearing
I know he wears that
toques.
beanie a lot.
Yeah.
I have a beanie here.
Okay. Go
Maybe
for
I
it.
can get in there.
Yeah.
We can't go in there with the riffraff. Like, Chris isn't invited.
I mean, I don't think you...
We need to look marketable here.
I think you count as riffraff, but...
I am not riffraff. I am very relatable.
Okay. Anyway, that's... It just was a good little cherry on the top of a great night. I left him to it. He did his job already. He provided his
What was the best?
entertainment.
Okay, so on a night where there were many positives for the Canucks in that Boston game, what was the big takeaway for you?
That Canucks have the power to overwhelm a team where they just, to the point, a team like Boston, that they just gave up.
Yeah.
I mean, I know they played Calgary on Friday night, so no doubt they were tired.
For sure. But to your point, like, Saturday night against Boston was a example that when the Canucks are turning it on, they are a very good team.
Yeah.
I think the maddening thing with the Canucks this season has been the nights where they just flat out don't show up. And there have been a few of those occasions. But we've seen examples like on Saturday night where everything just comes together. The Canucks look like a complete team, top to bottom. Like, there were how many different goal scorers in those 9 goals? Toffoli scored 2, so I feel like there were 8 different goal scorers that night.
Yeah, let me just check.
Toffoli had 2.
Yeah.
Horvat had 1. Gaudette had 1.
Gaudette had
Pearson
1.
had 1. Eriksson had 1.
Yeah, I mean, Louis scoring, like, that's just...
Who am I missing here? Miller? No, Pedersen scored 1.
Pedersen. Stetcher, have you counted?
Stetcher and Virtanen scored 1.
Yeah.
There were 8 different goal scorers on Saturday night.
Yeah. And...
Quinn Hughes looked amazing again, by the way.
Even when, like, with Boston's goals, I mean, 2 of them were Pasternak, who we just know is elite.
David Pasternak, good at hockey. #analysis.
Yeah. But yeah, it was pretty limited. They had that brief period where they scored 2 very quick goals, which were a bit alarming, but...
By the by, on the Pasternak breakaway goal, what the hell was Brandon Sutter doing?
That's a terrific question.
Like...
It's like...
Wasn't it off an icing call that was in the Bruin zone, too?
Yeah.
Like...
David Pasternak.
How does that happen? You might want to cover that guy.
Yeah.
Anywho.
That was bad. But that's not to take away. What a great performance.
Back on the previous thing I was mentioning. Quinn Hughes, also good at hockey. #analysis.
Yeah, I just love how, like, he'll just find a way round players. You know, he seems like he's in a difficult position and he'll just work the puck. Won't rush it.
Yeah.
Like, find a way around.
The quintessential moment of Hughes's performance, the quintessential,
Good.
I feel like we've used that already once this season. The big moment though was when he was walking the blue line and he was facing pressure from a Bruins player, and I think it was Sean Corrali from the Bruins. He was getting pressured on the blue line, and Hughes just does like a little button hook off the wall. And he's coming down the half wall to find I think it was, who was it that he hooked up with on that goal? Do you know the one I'm talking about?
No.
Okay, you keep talking, but I'm going to look it up, which says that was. But it literally was Hughes spinning off of a forechecker or a defender, going to the half wall, and then he finds the guy in the slot for the easy goal.
Right. But yeah, as you were saying, like 8 different scorers, depth, scoring, players really having fun.
That was Toffoli, by the way.
Okay. Yeah, it still means a lot. Like, it seems to, like, it was scrappy. Boston were getting frustrated. Really seems like this team's just, like, do enjoy beating Boston. Obviously, the game we had earlier this season was very disappointing from a Canucks perspective, but yeah, Saturday was fun.
Yeah. We'll take a break. When we come back, looking at the Canucks' upcoming road trip, as well as an update into what we believe are their playoff chances. All coming up next. C4 Podcast, CanucksHockeyBlog.com.
Take hitting out of the game. You can't hit anymore, so don't do it.
The unsportsmanlike conduct, I want to get an explanation on it.
No kidding.
Because how do you get suspended for unsportsmanlike conduct?
Plus interference. There's no interference there. He had the puck.
Now, Madison never ever did that before. Now, why did he do it? And that because he was mad.
Well, your early favorite for the Calder Trophy, that's for sure. Elias Pettersson, you might even say your early favorite for the Hart Trophy.
Just to get back to your question, Elias is going to play plenty. He didn't play. He's going to get a lot of power play time. And yeah, I'm concerned about our offense. We lost 200-point players, and we've got to find a way to score.
So, the Vancouver Canucks on the road. They got the Montreal Canadiens tonight, if you're listening on Tuesday. The Senators on Thursday, the Maple Leafs on Saturday, and they've got the Jackets on Sunday. It's a very quick 4-game road trip in the span of Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. 6 days, 4 games and 6 nights. I was told there'd be no math.
Yeah, good counting. A lot of distance cover, though.
So, there's a lot of games in a very short amount of evenings. I'm not going to lie, Anna. You look at those opponents. The Montreal Canadiens, Senators, Leafs, and Jackets. I would say the Canucks have to come close to running the table in that 4-game road trip.
Yeah, I mean, they all look like winnable games.
Especially the Montreal and Ottawa games.
Yeah.
Like, those were 2 teams that sold big today at the deadline. 2 teams that are competing for a lottery pick at this point. No excuse to lose those 2 games.
Yeah, I mean, Canucks seem to find ways to lose those games on the road. But you're right. If the Canucks are legit, they've got to come out strong on this road trip.
Yeah.
I mean, once again, you look at the distances between those teams and really just the flight path they have to go on. It looks grim. It sucks. Travel sucks for the Canucks. But, yeah, I think it's just huge. You really need to, like, show that they're capable of dominating the weaker teams.
Yeah. And you know what? The Canucks have been kind of average on the road this season. Here's a good chance for them to sort of reestablish that they are a good road team as well. They're a little banged up, obviously, with no Brock Besser. But for the most part, the Besser and Markstrom injuries aside, Anna, they are still relatively healthy at this point in the season, which a lot of teams in the NHL cannot say.
Yeah.
And so there are teams out there that are not as lucky as with injuries, and there are teams out there that are clearly not competing for a playoff spot, and the Canucks are playing a lot of them on this 4-game road trip.
Yeah, and with their games played, the only other team in the playoff race really, who are in the playoff spot right now that have played as fewer games is Colorado, and they're in the other division. So it's really key that the Canucks take these games in hand and make them count.
Right. Looking at the Canucks playoff chances, Anna, and let's sort of do a quick roundtable about some of the moves that were made in the Pacific Division, and it seems like there were a lot of teams in the division that improved. Vegas Golden Knights getting some goaltending help with Robin Lehner from the Chicago Blackhawks. The Edmonton Oilers acquiring Andres Athanasiou from Detroit, as well as Tyler Ennis. Calgary Flames boosting their back end with Eric Gustafsson, as well as a name I'm forgetting on the top of my head.
I literally just read this summary.
While you think about it, or while you look it up,
yeah.
I'll just quickly say that it seems obvious that these Pacific Division rivals for the Canucks have sensed the Pacific is still very much up for grabs. They saw the Canucks make their splash last week by getting Tyler Toffoli, and they countered big time today. It is going to be tough for the Vancouver Canucks to keep pace in what will be a very frenzied finish to win the Pacific Division.
Derek Forbort
Thank
from
you.
the Kings.
I mean, Forbort's obviously, he doesn't move the needle too much, like a solid, maybe bottom pairing defenseman, former first round pick. But like, when you add a couple defenders out there when they've already got Mark Giordano out, like they clearly needed to plug that hole.
Yeah. Calgary had a...
Who improved the most of those three teams, by the way?
Oh, Edmonton.
I think so too.
Yeah.
It's scary.
I mean, just how often do we talk about McDavid's speed? And just how quick he is with that puck. But just imagine that with legit help.
Yeah. Ugh. I'm not going to lie. I thought the Oilers were going to pay more for Athanasiou.
Yeah. I mean, Detroit would just...
Pair of seconds. I thought it was going to be one of their prized defensive prospects, but...
Yeah, I really thought, like, obviously Detroit are kind of happy to offload at this point. But really, they could have... maybe squeeze a little more.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, when you look at those three teams, you think Edmonton got better, but who is still the team to beat in your mind in this division?
Vegas.
I think so too. And it's kind of scary that we haven't seen the best of them yet, and yet here they are still in the lead for the Pacific.
Yeah, reading about like the Pacific Division's gains at the deadline, I didn't quite realize how bad their goaltending has been because they're still winning.
Yep.
Like,
you think Marc-Andre Fleury sees Leonard coming in, he's like, oh, here's Matt Murray 2.0 coming.
Well, yeah, but I think he's more okay with it. He's, in
the back nine of his career, obviously.
Yeah, he had a couple bonus years, if anything, with Vegas of dominating once again. So I think he's kind of happy to be part of a good goaltending tandem again. And if they both, like, take them through the playoffs, he's part of that fun team again. I don't think he's too upset about it.
Initially, I was thinking the Canucks were close to being the favorites to win the Pacific Division, but after today, I'm sort of peeling back a little bit on it. I think the Canucks are still a top 3 team in the Pacific, but I don't think they're the favorite.
That's undeniably true right now. But
is it though?
As in, they are sitting at third spot in the...
Well, yeah, but I'm saying, are they going to finish as a top 3?
No, I that's why I said right now. Listen, Matt. But I didn't really think we were going to win the Pacific. I did think that at least one of Vegas...
Well, I'm certainly peeling back now with the Markstrom injury a little bit.
Yeah, I thought Vegas would win the Pacific.
So... your expectation is more, are the Canucks going to finish in the top 3 in the Pacific, or are they going to be a wild card team, or not make the playoffs altogether?
Right, and, I'm still saying they make the playoffs, but...
As a wild card team?
I don't know. Don't make me pick between...
I want you to pick. We have this discussion almost on a weekly episode basis.
Do I have to pick one or two?
Yes, you have to pick one of them.
Okay. I thought you were going to make me pick which wild card spot.
Okay, wild card or Pacific spot? Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, you just don't have any faith in Thatcher Demko, do you?
I like him. But he's not Markstrom.
I think it's clear to me Vegas and Edmonton are 2 of the top 3 Pacific Division teams at this point. I still feel the Canucks, even with the Markstrom injury, are better than Calgary? Question mark?
I think they are, but, Calgary have shored up defensively, and...
Derek Forbort's a guy!
I know, but Vancouver looks very shaky defensively.
Yeah.
And I guess it also depends when Hamnick and
I am
Giordano
totally acknowledging the wheels could, in a worst-case scenario, fall off.
I mean, we just need to score 9 goals every game, and then it's fine. It doesn't matter how Demko is playing.
I mean, easier said than done.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. This is a tall order. This is going to be a very interesting next few weeks for the Vancouver Canucks. Cam said it best. There are a wide range of outcomes for this team. I actually tried to put him on the spot myself when we were chatting earlier today. I said to him, "Are the Canucks going to make the playoffs? And if so, how far are they getting?" And he says, "I still think they have enough to get in. As far as how far they could go, it's firmly based on goaltending. The team bleeds shots and chances. I've maintained all year they are good enough to get in, which means they could still miss, but he mentions they've banked a lot of points, so they're in a decent spot. But it's plausible they miss, and it's also plausible they can get to the Western Conference Finals."
I mean, that's a whole span of options there from Cam, but that really speaks to all the uncertainties. Without Markstrom, it's just there's a whole load of question marks.
It's there are a very wide range of outcomes for the Canucks. They could easily collapse down the stretch, or Thatcher Demko can acquit himself well and keep this team afloat. There's just so many. And as we wrap things up here on the C4 podcast, how about you tell people where they can find us?
Okay, so we're at the C4 podcast on Twitter. We're at facebook.com/the C4 podcast. And we're at c4podcast.com. If you want to join us on Discord, where we just talk about hockey. I mean, it was really fun today to be on Discord with all the news coming in and, having little debates.
In a good place, by the way. Like, Canucks Twitter can be a very angry place. And it was good to have that, on a different platform where there was civil conversations.
Yeah, I think I had two major disagreements today with people where I fundamentally think that that's the wrong opinion, but it was always respectful, and that's what I love about it.
Chris is trying his best.
Not with Chris this time. Anyway, Discord is at bit.ly/C4 Discord, all in capitals, so bit.ly/C4 Discord, all in capitals. Also, if you become a patron of ours at patreon.com, you can listen live on Discord. So you could get all the behind-the-scenes action of Matt annoying me during the podcast recording, which is all being gross, which is that's what normally happens. But yeah, that's all.
I think I said it best last week when I said, win or lose with the Vancouver Canucks this year, we will be changing our pants.
God, that was gross.
The team is
we can't end on that note.
The team is very entertaining, Anna.
Yeah, Saturday was just wonderful.
Quinn Hughes makes me want to cry for all the right reasons.
That's a much nicer thought to end on.
I just I just watch him play, and I'm like, how did we get him at 7th overall? The Vancouver Canucks literally won the draft lottery in 2017.
By losing it.
And 2018 by losing it. What a team. Last thing on promoting the Canucks tweet up that's happening on Saturday.
Yeah, don't forget to join us at Jaggers Saturday 4 p.m. where we'll drink a few beers. Maybe several, depending on how the game goes. That's not very optimistic, I'm sorry. But we'll talk some hockey, we'll just hang out. So Jaggers downtown, on Pender. Please join us, and you can actually meet us in person. But it should be fun.
We'll be there, and so will Chris.
Why did you sound so...
We'll be there, and so will Chris.
Yeah, okay.
Is that better? Did I nail it?
That's worse.
Last thoughts from you, Anna, as we wrap things up here on the C4 podcast.
Just this road trip is huge for Canucks playoff chances.
I mean, they're all huge games at this point, for sure.
I wish Thatcher Demko the very best of luck for all of them.
I could feel the confidence radiating from you. I'm taking the positive approach. I think Thatcher Demko, they're big boots to fill. But I think he has shown enough glimpses of his potential this year that he can string together a stretch of games where the Canucks can acquit themselves well. This road trip is going to be huge in terms of establishing his confidence the rest of the way that he will be the number one. In terms of like, some softball, first few games, you could not ask for an easier start for Thatcher Demko as the number one.
Famous last words.
Like, they've got Montreal and a dispirited Ottawa team right out of the gate.
Is there any other type of Ottawa team?
Like, if there could
dispirited?
If there was like two ideal opponents that you could have for Thatcher Demko, these two would be there.
I agree.
Maybe a California road trip, although those Anaheim games are always a little dicey.
Them pesky Ducks.
So, I'm taking the positive approach.
I love it. Positive Matt.
Godspeed to you, Thatcher Demko, as we embark on a new chapter. Demko time. With all that said, we're out.